on now. Go on. Oh, when you're trying to do DIY projects and the donkeys just want to get involved. Come on, you goofballs. Go on.
Hello, James. How's it going over there?
Hey, Bill, how are you?
What is that I hear in the background?
We are getting hammered right now with one of those atmospheric rivers.
Okay, so you got a little bit of
Yeah.
rain. You're stuck in your garage?
Yeah, I'm stuck in the garage and started working outside today and quickly had to move all my equipment inside. So,
Okay.
you know, we're doing what we can do.
All right. Well, this topic for this today's episode is one that's near and dear to my heart because it's something that I've been wondering and struggled with for many years. Anytime I built anything out of wood, and that is, James, the door to the cage. Oh my goodness, that has caused me no end of pain and misery. And so I can share what I've done, but why don't we just start with you and say, what do you do for doors?
Well, I have two different approaches. On an interior door, um, I do a little bit more refined work. I like to rabbet the edges, which is give it a little bit of a dado so that it insets into the door and that keeps the critters, the bugs and stuff like that inside my cage. On an outdoor one, I'm not so worried about it. I like to have about a 1/4 inch gap because with expansion and contraction, you have a tendency to have doors twist and warp on you.
All right. Well, there's the big rub right there. We've got a door. We've got a rectangular door in a rectangular slot, and we need to make sure that this door, in all of its expansion and contraction, still keeps a chameleon inside.
Correct.
And so the question is, how do we do that when we don't even know what a dado is?
Well, where do you want to start? Interior or exterior?
Let's start. You know what? Let's start at the exterior, and I'll just say what I've done. And before you uh, give us the professional opinion, I'll just say some of the things I've done. We can critique that. I
Okay.
eventually created. I have this wood hole in my cage. That's what 2 feet by whatever 2.5 feet, and what I do is I make a door that is about half an inch smaller on all sides, well, except the hinge side, and then on the inside I have these door stops. So I take those fence slats. I love those fence slats. I use them all over the place, and I cut out little strips,
Mm-hmm.
and so the door closes into that hole, and the door is way smaller than it should be, but because it's up against those slats, which is just it just hangs down like an inch or so,
Mm-hmm.
then I can use gate hardware or whatever hardware to latch that door in place so it stays flush up against that internal door stop. So that is my
Yeah,
solution.
that's a pretty creative idea.
Okay.
Especially if you can't get those gaps that go around the outside edge in closer. I usually try to go for a 1/4 inch
Okay.
on one side, so it's an eighth altogether. So when I measure my interior opening, I'll take a quarter off of that dimension and make my door a 1/4 inch shorter. That's both ways though. So I'm basically leaving myself with an eighth inch gap
Is that
all the way around the
okay? So
door.
that's on your outdoor door.
Outdoor
So
cage,
you leave
correct.
an eighth inch gap along
Oh,
the sides. When you close the door, what do you use to keep it closed?
I use a slide bolt
Okay.
latch. And I usually put mine on top and bottom. So I
Okay.
have my doors like so, and then I put my slat this way instead of across the two doors or the
Is that
one
so
door.
you don't have to have a thick middle part or
Correct. I have zero. Yes, exactly.
okay.
And what it also does is it keeps the door, because you're in an outside situation, your door is going to want to start twisting on you. Those latches will actually keep it in place and keep it from twisting. over time.
Okay. Well, I know it probably doesn't help that I was using 2x2 lumber, white lumber, and so that has a whole lot of tolerance to it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that 2x2 material, I don't know what it is about it, but when it gets wet, it goes left.
So
It really
what
wants to twist on it.
what size? Like, should I use 2x3s?
You know, I like to use, if I'm using the pine outside, this will work really well too. And it's only 3/4 of an inch by 2.5.
Okay.
Okay. This is a really good product. It already comes pre-dried and it's also in the same section. And then of course there's the 2x3. Let's see if we can show the dimension.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And once you put a 45 on this and screw the two together, you've actually ended up with a lot of strength. I'll put 2 screws through it to hold the corners together. And I gain a lot of strength out of that. I prefer on my exterior enclosures using the pressure treated lumber in the 2x4 material.
Okay.
Okay, and this stuff will even hold better. And it really does depend on your thickness of material. Now this stuff, as you can see, this is the 2x2. I'm sure you've experienced with the burls and the knots. And this material is really not good for much. It's basically a 2x4 ripped in half.
Yeah.
And what happens to it is it always goes wonky. I'm not sure exactly why, but I've had that same experience a lot in the past. So I don't even use this stuff anymore because it's just really hard to use for anything other than sandwiching it in between 2 pieces of material that'll keep it straight.
Okay.
So you could do that effect. You could take some thin material, but you're deleting the purpose. You want to have a screen. So no, it's not going to work.
Okay. Well, you mentioned something about a 45. So let's talk about the corners of our door and what is the best way to put 2 pieces of wood at 90 degrees and meet them together.
A mitered corner, and you can do that with the chop saw. Let's see if I got it.
And a mitered corner means a 45-degree cut.
It's a 45. It's actually a 22-degree angle, but they call it a 45. It makes a 45-degree cut.
Okay.
So that's the best way. You can also box it. This saw right here, I don't know if you can see that guy.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, and they sell inexpensive versions. Of course, I don't have an inexpensive one, but they sell inexpensive versions. Okay, and this saw right here will do all of those miter cuts for you.
And a miter cut just means at an angle.
So here we go.
Other than 90.
You see the saw turns and twists. Okay, and what a 90 degree is basically you have a square and this is 90 degrees. So here's the angle cut itself. And when you put those two together, you created a picture frame.
Mm-hmm.
The picture frame is going to give you the strongest corner that you have.
Why? What is the advantage of doing it at that 45 degree?
It won't let it slip one way or the other.
Okay.
You can box it, is basically put another piece on top of it and screw it together that way. But it's just not as strong a joint. These two will be pushing against each other, and that creates a lot of strength.
Okay. Now, I talked about building a wood door and putting it recessed into a hole in the cage, essentially just a little bit larger than the door. And so the door closes flush with the outside of the cage. How about if we create a door that is larger than the hole, so it closes and essentially lays on the front of the cage? What are the?
So there's where
advantages,
Yep.
disadvantages, and how do you make that work?
So basically, what you're talking about is what you do on an interior door. And that's the dado I'm talking about. It basically, you're going to have a shelf that the door sits on, and it'll actually be a half inch bigger than the opening. And then the inside of the door will have a little bit of a notch to it that allows it to go past the frame into the enclosure. But that is also an excellent idea, and I never really thought of doing that on an exterior because I don't see the need for it as far as your animals go. There's not enough space for them to get out anyway. On an interior door, yes, because now you're trying to trap your humidity and your bugs, and so it's more important to do that on inside cage than it would be on an exterior.
Okay. I make a wood frame, and then I staple with stainless steel staples 1/4 inch hardware cloth or 1/2 inch hardware cloth to the door to create the door area. What do you?
There's two ways you can. There's two ways you can do that. You can staple it to the face, or you can actually. Here we come with the word dado again. Take a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cut out of the edge of the door, staple it inside of that groove, and then take the piece that you literally cut out and put it back on top. And now you don't have to staple anything. You've got a nice clean surface
Wow.
with your edges protected from your animal.
Another way that I've used is I make a door. This is for my larger walk-in enclosures. Make a door out of 2x4s, and I get some real gate hardware on that. But to screen it, I get my 1/2 inch hardware cloth, put it down, and then I use 1x2 strips just on the edges, and I screw that 1x2 strip down, and that holds in, and I don't have to go through all the staples.
That's a great idea. That's what I did with the inside of this cage. Is I just took a 2x4 to my table saw, and I ripped it.
Oh.
So this is your pressure treated lumber turned into lattice slats.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and then what I do is I just put this up against the slat, and I use a pneumatic stapler, and I can staple this on the edges to do that. And that's a quick and easy way of doing it. You're correct.
Now, is pressure treated wood pressure treated throughout the entire lumber?
If you look really close, you'll see that it does have a green tint to it. So it is treated all the way through.
Okay.
Okay, the exterior is, they are now making it, this is what I was telling you before, they're calling it Nature's Woods, and it gets a pre-stain on it that is really impervious to exterior sunlight, weathering. It's a really, really great product, and it doesn't leach like it used to.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about it. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about interior. Making an interior door.
Okay.
I don't have a whole lot of experience in interior doors.
So what I do with interior doors is there's two different ways that you can do it. First of all, you can make your own, and it requires a little bit of routing and a little bit of you're going to need a table saw and a router and a sander. I usually like to do my fronts in glass, but it can also be done with screen. And it's basically the same principle. I'll only take a 1/4 by 1/4 angle cut, and it'll leave me a little trim piece that I pull out, and then I can either set my glass in there and glue it to it, or I can staple my screen to it, and then I can put that piece of trim back inside. That way it gives me a nice clean edge on the inside of it too. Or my other way of doing it is you can purchase doors. You can literally measure your opening and order a door online, and you can get them anywhere from $20 to $100, just depending on what you want. It'll come pre-drilled for your hinges. They'll even send you the hinges, and you can literally just pull it out of the box, put some glass in it, and screw it to your cabinet. There's some fairly inexpensive ways of doing that without having to do the carpenter work to it. You know, all you have to do is build the box, and you can buy the doors.
Let's talk about hardware, meaning latches and hinges. What should we look out for as far as, let's start with hinges. What should we look out for hinges for, say, an exterior door?
An exterior door, you don't want to use any kind of steel. It's going to rust out. You also want to make sure that your screws that you're using are going to be stainless steel so that they can hold up to weather. I like to use powder coated or plastic or galvanized. Basically, most of my exterior stuff, I try to use the parts you get at Home Depot that are gate hinges. I think I have some right here. So my house, it's a little dusty. It's been in the garage while I'm working.
Okay.
This is a slide bolt. Okay, and this is how I attach these on top and bottom of the cage instead of going across the door, because it gives me the clearance and it also helps keep the door in place. Here's an exterior gate hinge.
Okay.
They come in several different sizes. They hold up forever. Not forever, but they hold up a long time. I really like using the Everbuilt exterior gate products for my exterior cages. And they come in a lot of sizes, and some of the stuff's even really pretty. Here's an ornate
Okay.
handle, and it's actually hammered to look like it's weathered, and so it gives your
All right,
cage some
James,
character.
I'm going to represent everybody out there who, like me, wants to know the answer to this question. Do I make it stronger by adding more hinges?
It really depends on the weight. I think the maximum amount of hinges you would ever need on a door is 3, and that's if you had a 5-foot door. Anything 4 foot
Okay.
or less, you only need 2 hinges. The stronger the hinge, the better the hang.
Okay.
Adding more will not work.
And putting up one of those piano hinges that's just like 3 feet long?
Piano hinges serve their purpose, but they're
Okay.
not for cages.
Right. I mean, it looked cool. So, how do we decide?
Yeah, you're dating yourself, Bill. We haven't used
How do
those
we
in years.
decide how big of a hinge we need?
That's a good question. I guess I just go by if I'm using a heavier material. I don't think that there's anything out there that this gate hinge won't be able to handle that you're building in this 6 inch. They also sell it in a 4 and a 2. I think even a 4 inch is going to handle a good 4 foot by 4 foot door. So, I don't think that there's hinges have changed over the years, and I think it's going to be
Okay.
pretty hard to overload it. You could use house doors, and then they also sell some industrial doors. But I've hung vault doors on banks that you would be surprised how much weight is on that door, and the hinge is not as big
Okay.
as you would expect. So I don't think I would. I don't think I would even have that part of my concern, as long as it's not some little dinky thing that's holding a 4 foot door. A 4 inch hinge, a 3 to 4 inch hinge will pretty much handle anything you're going to do in the cage field.
All right. Now let's talk about, say we get creative because we're making our own cage because we want to fill a certain space. Let's talk about door shape. What is the best door shape? And to preface this, I will say there's the normal rectangular like we have on our house, but then some of us start to get creative and start making doors that are wider than they are tall. Where do we start getting ourselves in trouble as far as door
Hmm.
shapes?
Well, you really want to be as wide. You want to be taller than you are wide. Um, I don't think I would take a door out any farther than I would the height, um, because you're going to start adding a lot of top weight to it. Um, of course, I would stick with a rectangular door, and I would try to, like, let's say you have a 4 foot opening. Well, both your doors are going to be 2 foot, but you could be 4 foot tall. Once I start going really wide, I just want to make sure that my doors that are in the middle, or my doors are, it's kind of a as goes type of thing. I think I would try to keep my doors symmetrical. Let's say it's a 4 foot opening. I would do 2 foot doors. A 5 foot opening, I could go 2 foot 6, but I would want to be at least 3 foot. So I think I want to be taller than
Yeah,
I am wide. Does that
and
make
I have
sense?
always I have made so many different cage or door shapes in my past, and I have always been happier when I make it taller than wide. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
and
It feels
and
more
even when
balanced.
I
It
add
doesn't look
like
weird.
4 or 6 hinges on it, it just doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, you start getting out too far and you're getting into a fulcrum
Yeah.
point situation.
So, have you made doors from any other material than wood? Yeah. Well,
No, but I'm really open to it. I'm thinking about doing some having somebody weld me some steel doors for an exterior cage because I want to give it kind of a southwestern or a western look. I want to kind of let those steel doors rust.
okay.
Something I've just been playing around with. I'm trying to think of other ways of building
Well, if
exterior
anybody
cages.
is not feeling comfortable around wood, you can make it out of screen framing. So if you go to Home Depot and you go into the screen door section, they will have kits where you have the frame, you have the corners, you have the splicing, the what do they call it? Not splicing, whatever the rubber that goes in to hold your screen, and so you can actually make screen doors.
Frame bead. Yeah. I have some of that stuff here.
Now, the one thing you will find is that screening screen doors
Screen corners.
it takes skill. It is very easy to do it so tightly that when you hold your door up, it's like tweaked and twisting. And so there's a little bit of
Yes.
skill that is required when you're making screen doors. Oh, okay. Let's see. So we've talked about wood exterior and interior. We talked about making a screen door. Uh, let's talk about materials to put on the door. We're talking about like aluminum screen, hardware cloth, acrylic, glass. What kind of things can we put on this frame to make our door solid?
Okay, glass and acrylic are going to give you the most strength and turn your door completely solid. When you start getting into your screens, I've done aluminum screen. You can get the aluminum now in the dark color, but the problem with screen is if it's shiny, you can't see through it. So
Yeah,
it's
you need the
terrible.
charcoal.
What I would use, yeah, keep it charcoal or go for. There, the problem with the fiberglass
Mm-hmm.
stuff is that crickets can chew through it. So I wouldn't use that. So I would stick with the metal, aluminum, uh, a dark colored, the charcoal colored screen for your windows. It's a little more difficult to put into the frames because it doesn't want to bend as easy.
Okay.
But it works a lot
Well,
better.
I have done a lot with PVC coated hardware cloth, and I've liked that a whole lot better than the galvanized. And the galvanized is just rough, and so I like the smooth PVC
Hmm.
coated hardware cloth, which I often have to special order.
Yeah, you know what? I found a trick for that.
What's that?
Spray. Um,
Oh, you're gonna be spraying with your rubber stuff? Oh no, you tell me, does that work?
it works so good,
What? I mean,
it'll
it doesn't
make you
clump?
mad.
Really?
Nope.
I'm trying it.
So a little Flex Seal on your galvanized cage, and you have instant.
Ah, oh man. All right, I'm trying that.
It works great.
Oh,
I
and
do it with all my
how
cages.
hard is it to get coverage?
It's it's not hard at all. You just put it up against something. When I'm done with my doors, I'll lean it up against a piece
Wow.
of plywood
Okay.
and just spray it. Flip it over, spray it
All right,
again.
then.
It works awesome. And now you have a rubber seal on your galvanized cardboard cloth.
All right. Well, James, I think we've kind of covered the doors. Is there anything you can think of that we didn't cover? All right, everybody. Then
Okay.
we're going to close up this episode. And James, how you feeling about this?
It was a blast. I love helping people. I love this community. So
Well,
come
James,
to
if
my
someone wants
garage
to
anytime.
contact you directly, what's the best way to contact you?
I guess it would be through Instagram is my best route. That's the one I've kind of set for all of my cage and animal stuff. It's crosscuts_8
On Instagram. Okay, and of
on
course with me,
Instagram.
you've got all sorts of ways to contact me: Instagram, email, all the Chameleon Academy stuff. So, all right then, James, thank you very much, and everybody, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the DIY Chameleon Guys.
I'm never going to get this cage done. Can you guys hang that door for me? What are you doing, little one? Go on, Janet. Go on, Dusty.